Hello everybody, this is Ryan, and I'm here to make a video for module number 6. This module is an application of what you learned in module 5 and also module number 4. We're going to actually go through and make a at-risk spreadsheet that we can use to analyze our data to see which of our kids are more at risk than others. So let's get started. So in this module, you're going to go through and you're going to consider some at-risk factors. You're going to do some reading and some research on some at-risk factors some documents that I provide you, which are right up here. And additionally, you're going to do some additional research and find 3 other sources that have at-risk factors in them. You're going to make a spreadsheet. You're going to make a document that you're going to use to document what you find for at-risk factors and also the additional sources that you find and additional resources you might find. Then once you have that, you're going to begin to work on your data sheet. But additionally, in this module, you're going to need to set up a Google Meet with me, and we'll do that sometime during week number 6, so contact me and let me know. So let's get started on your spreadsheet. This will be very similar to your small data set. You're going to click on the link, you're going to make a copy, then you're going to name it, and share it with me. So I'm going to name mine like this. You can name yours similarly. Just put your name in my place and change the term. And let's get started. So here is your student data sheet. Here's some demographics. Here's some A reading data. Here's some early reading data. Here's some A math data. Here is some state assessment data. Here are some SABRE data, some attendance rate data. Some map data that you can use as well. So there's lots of different data here that you can use to build your sheet. So we're going to start off with demographics. So we're going to start off looking at ESL students. If you go back to the module, you'll notice that I gave you some at-risk factors that KSD uses to identify students for the LCP, or licensed or local consolidated plan report. And we're going to look at this right here, ESL learners, or English language learners, which contain demographics. It's right here in column D. So we're going to bring in column D into our student sheet. So let's call this EL students. So I'm going to bring in just the numbers. So I'm going to go VLOOKUP. Here's my student number. Go to my demographics tab. Here's my student number again. I'm going to scroll over and I'm going to select all of this data. I know my data set's pretty large, so I'm going to go to like 9,000. And I know that my EL column is in 1, 2, 3, 4. Do false. And then I'm going to put a $sign around my A on both sides. $sign around my D. And then I'm hitting there. And I get a 0. So let's fill these down. There's my data. So now, just so we orient ourselves with what this data means, a 0 would be a non-ESL student, or non-EL. A 3 would be an EL student, or an English language learner. An 8 would be a student who's monitored. That means they were proficient 2 years ago. And a 7 would be a student who is transitional. That means they were proficient last year. So now let's add in EL at-risk factor. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to assign a value to these different students. So we're going to say, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if this column is a 0, so if that equals, so if H2 equals 0, then we're going to say they get a 0. I'm going to say if H2 equals 3, we're going to give them a 1 value. And we're going to say if H2 equals a 7, we're going to give them a 0.5. And we're going to say if H2 equals an 8, we're going to give them 0.25. And anything else, we're going to give them a 0. And then let's see if this works. So there's my values. I like that suggested autofill, so click yes. And my 8 didn't work. It's right there. See, I put in I instead of an if. So these are going to happen, little things like that. Let's fix that. Still didn't fix it. Yeah. Now. Oh, no. There we go. That looks a lot better. So anytime it's a 3, it's a 1. Anytime it's an 8, it's a 0.25. Anytime it's a 7, it's a 0.5. Anything else is a 0. That's one factor. Another factor would be insufficient mastery of skills or not meeting state standards, not meeting requirements to graduation, not meeting the requirements necessary for pushing next grade, or it's not working on academic grade level. So let's take a look at those. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go to a reading, and I want to bring in the spring a reading score. So there it is. So spring a reading, let's bring in the national percentile. So we're going to bring in this column. So let's figure out what column number that is. So let's count back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So back to my, so from my column to the student number is 22. So I'm using my VLOOKUP, column number 22. Go back to my students. Let's do a reading, spring 22 percentile. Just like that. So let's bring that in. So equals VLOOKUP and a reading. Let's go across here to the column, which is right there. And then let's do like 25,000. That's going to select all my data. Remember, it's column 22. 22. And we're going to do false. Remember, you got to put a dollar sign around the B, and dollar sign around the W, and there it is. So I'm getting some not availables, and I'm getting some blanks. So let's see if we can fix the not availables. So we fix the errors by, and the errors, let's take a look at that error real quick. Error. Did not find the value in VLOOKUP evaluation. That probably means that the student does not have a score, didn't take the test. So let's just make them a blank. So let's do if error. This is to be learned from module 5, and we're going to do a blank value. And we're going to fill that down. We should take care of a few of these errors. So there we go. Clean that up a little bit. So now let's do a reading, a risk factor. And we're going to say that just for this case, you can do any value you want to. I'm going to say if this value is less than 25, they're going to be a 1. So equals if this value is less than 5, we do a 1. Then we're going to say if that value is less than 50, we're going to do a 0.5. We're going to say if this value is less than 75, they're going to get a 0.25, and then anything else is going to be a 0. My ifs are overrides. That's it there. So look at that. So I like that so far. But notice how this blank gets a 0 and this blank gets a 1. So what's happening here is this was a blank. So let's adjust our formula. We need to say if this is blank, we're going to give it a 0. So we're going to do that in front. So we're going to add an if to the front. So we're going to say if J2 equals blank blank, then we're going to give a blank blank value. Or we could say it's a 0. It's either way. I'm going to say a blank blank because there's no score. I'm going to run my if-then statement. So now let's try that. See if that cleans this up a little bit. Because again, we're getting a blank here and it says it's a 1. We want that to be a 0 or another blank because they had no score. So let's do that, clean it up. It did. So less than 50, 0.5. Less than 75, 0.25. Less than 25 is a 1. So that looks good. So now we've got some values. You're going to go through, you're going to add several more. I think I asked for, let's see, 5 risk factors. Let's look and see what I put in here. If I said at least 5. So I showed you 2, so you're going to do at least 3 more. I'm going to do more. So then what we want to do is we want to do an overall risk factor. So I'm going to column to the left, and I'm going to say at risk factor or overall at risk factor. And there's many ways to do this. One way I like to do it is just do an average. So I'm going to do equals average of this factor and this factor. Notice now I have 0.25. This is a 1. You kind of see your average. So then what you can do then is, so that kind of gives you an overall picture of which students are more at risk than others. Like, for example, this student is a 0.625. They have 2 factors. This student is a 1. They have only 1 factor. So you'll need to have more than 2 so that these averages will look a little better. But with only 2 pieces of data right now, these averages are coming out. But what you're going to do is, as you add more factors, you're going to add your average. And notice that J2 is this at-risk factor. L2 is this one. And you continue to do that and continue to adjust your average until you get done with it. And then you could add some color coding, some conditional formatting to this. And I like to do a little bit of here, where you do color scale. And I do a color scale, something like this one. I like to use something like this one. I go the other way. Color scale. Let's do the other one. Let's do this one. So the ones that are closer to 0 are red, and the things that are closer to 1 is green. Or you can go the other way. So the kids that are closer to 1, they have a high risk factor, high average. They're closer to where they're red. If they're closer to 0, which means they're not as at risk, they are green. So that's a way to do conditional formatting. That might be a little bit different. But this is an intro to at-risk spreadsheet. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helps. Let me know. I'll see you in our little meeting.